Hello, and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. Hi, guys. So great to have the space to chat with you again. And welcome to the podcast for women dentists who are looking for a deeper fulfillment and happiness and freedom in their work and in their lives. You have worked so hard to get here. You are literally putting smiles on children's faces on a daily basis, and the Business of Happiness is here to help put a smile on yours. Today, we are talking about the frustration, the stress that we take home with us when patients refuse to take x-rays, when patients refuse to say yes to the treatment that you know is best for them, when patients don't take care of the work that you have put so much time and effort into. How frustrating and disappointing it is when you've done your very best. I know that I experienced this so deeply as an orthodontist, putting not just my time, but years of work into a patient's beautiful mouth, getting this incredible result, really being so clear about wearing their retainers, the need to wear the retainers, and how frustrating it is when years later they come back and they say, I lost my retainer and now I have crooked teeth. What are you going to do about it? Or the frustration I hear from so many people when we offer x-rays. Right? There's nothing more frustrating than when you say, great, I'd love to support you in figuring out your treatment plan. Let's take some x-rays. And your patient says, absolutely not. I want you to decide what I need without x-rays. Or when they make that decision for their children. Oh, isn't that just so painful when a parent says, no, I refuse to take x-rays for my kid. And you've already taken x-rays, or someone took x-rays 3 years ago. And we know that we cannot deliver the care that we want to give without the radiographs. It can be so stressful. It can be so stressful when patients don't do what you ask them to, or they don't appreciate and respect the expertise that you have. When Google's opinion matters more than yours, it's one of the greatest sources of stress that we have in dentistry. You know, so many times when I tell people that I'm a stress management coach for women dentists, and I explain the amount of stress and overwhelm that women dentists are in, people will say to me, oh my gosh, Tarryn, I had no idea. Or when I say, you know, every now and then, News and World Report will say how data shows that dentists have one of the highest stress and overwhelm, anxiety, depression, and suicide rates of all the healthcare providers. And we haven't hit number one for a while now, but we've always been in the top 5 for many, many years. And people say to me, why is that? Why are dentists so stressed out? I had no idea. And although I don't have a straight answer for them, I know this is a component of it. And it makes so much sense that you feel that way. That you feel so much stress around patients just not honoring your expertise. And here's why. It's because you've put decades into this career. You have put hundreds of thousands of dollars. You have put so much heart into the work that you do. You care so deeply. You took an oath to do no harm. Let's just for a moment, remember that. You took an oath that matters to you to do no harm, and you care deeply about the value and the quality of the care you deliver. It is so difficult to separate that from when a patient says to you, well, Google told me this. Google says I should do it this way. It makes so much sense that you would feel stress about that. And many of us feel like we hold a responsibility to the outcome of the treatment that we give, right? Like our patients put their trust in us. People don't really get what's happening in their mouths. It's this mystery place. And they've come to us with a certain amount of fear and trepidation and suspicion. Is this going to be a good dentist? Am I trusting the right person? Am I spending my money in the right way? They come to us with all these fears. And so we want to give them the very best outcome. And I remember one patient in particular. I remember I had really convinced them to continue their care with us. This was the third child that we were treating, their third kid in the family. They had a great result with the older two kids. And this third kid had quite a complicated case. And I tried to explain everything to the mom. And I said, here's what I'm thinking about. These are what my concerns are. This is why this case is a little more challenging. And of course, it was a complex ortho case that would cost more than either of her siblings. And immediately I could see in the mom's eyes fear, little anger. We've come here with all of our family. Why is this patient not the cheapest, right, treatment? And they ended up going to a different orthodontist who offered them a much lower fee. I knew from the fee that they were charging that there was no way they were following through with the treatment I had suggested, that this was really a complex case and really required a little bit more attention. And I felt so terrible about it. I took that home with me. And this is the part that I want you to hear from this episode. It isn't the outcome that is keeping you stressed out. It is what you are making the outcome mean. Now let's just hold that for a moment. Here's the truth. You have no control or power over how other people act or their decisions that they make. None. Zero. It doesn't matter how good of a dentist you are. It doesn't matter how good of a business owner you are. It doesn't matter how good of a communicator you are, or an educator, or how compassionate you are, or how much CE you have taken, or how deeply you care. All of that can be true to 100%. You could have put 100% of your effort in all of those parts, all of those components of the work that you do. You could have the best team on your side, and you still do not have any control over your patient's decisions. Zero. And none of what they decide to do has any indication of your worth. So often we put so much of our sense of validation and worth based on our patients' decisions, whether or not they come to see us, whether or not they choose to have x-rays, whether or not they brush and floss their teeth, whether or not they take care of that crown, whether or not they stop smoking, whether or not they have the biological health, the resilience of their health in their system to be able to recover from the treatment that we give, to be able to integrate around an implant out of our control. A client of mine recently was telling me about an implant that she had placed. She had worked so hard towards being the best implantologist. She really has. She's taken many CE courses. She's gone to the best. She's invested a lot of money. It was very scary for her to do all of this. It was scary to even admit to herself she wanted to place implants. She had to do a lot of work over her own sense of identity. Am I good enough? Who would come to me? Who would pay me to have their implants done? Then she had to really work on charging appropriately, charging her fees to be commensurate of the amount of work and the stress and the responsibility of doing so. Then she had to find, the team and train them and support them. I mean, all the pieces that go into doing our very best for our patients. It's enormously complicated, and it's based in a lot of inner work that we might not even realize that we're doing, feeling good enough to actually take the step. And she had this patient, and she put an implant in, and the implant failed. And how much stress that brought her, the dentist, because what she was making it mean was that she wasn't good enough, that she had somehow failed. And the truth of the matter is, so much of it is out of our control. Are there parts that we can learn from? Yes. Can we learn and bring that data back and say, okay, I need to be really more clear, and maybe it's greater deep depth of questions on the intake exam. Are you a smoker? Do you have diabetes? Of course, you're asking all those questions to make sure that the outcome will be the most successful. But maybe it's greater clarity, and we can use that data to say, okay, I need the system to be a little bit better. I need patients to understand the importance of answering these questions truthfully, because as we all know, patients hide things. And even if that's not true, it still is not an indication of your worth. Even so, the stress we carry is not always the outcome. It's what we're making the outcome mean. And so often we make that mean, I am not good enough. I'm not good enough. That is the source of the stress. And I want to remind you again that you have no control. Turns out this patient had undiagnosed diabetes. Even if the patient was answering honestly and truthfully, this patient did not know she had diabetes. She discovered it 2 months later, and then she came back and she said, oh, and by the way, I was just diagnosed with diabetes. Oh, well, now it makes so much sense why that implant didn't integrate. But it was the stress that my client was taking home with her every night that she wasn't good enough. The truth is, there are so many variables that we do not control. And this is hard for dentists because we think we can control so much. And we think that in order to be our best, we need to control so much. But the truth is, so much is out of your control. And what is in your control is how you validate and support yourself. A lot of this has to do with the voice in your own head and renegotiating the narrative of what you're saying to yourself. If you've been saying to yourself, I'm not good enough, I make mistakes all the time, and nobody wants to come to see me, everything I do fails, I don't know the answers, I don't know enough. If you're constantly feeding yourself these disempowering narratives, you're going to feel less and less capable, less and less confident, and less free. The reality is you are not responsible for the outcome. I know that's what you've been told. I know that's what we tell ourselves. I am responsible for the outcome. But the truth is there are so many variables outside of your control. We don't get to take these teeth home. We don't get to go home and brush and floss and follow the nutrition that our patients are following. We don't get to tell them what to eat and whether or not to smoke. We leave a lot up to our patients. And right there is something you have control over, and that is letting go. Acknowledging the autonomy of your patients, acknowledging the fact that you do not get to walk home with them and dictate all their choices in their lives, acknowledging that whether or not they get x-rays is out of your control, even if it's making decisions for their children. Now, of course, we also get to report patients when we think that they're not offering their children safety, not looking after their best, keeping their kids' best interests at heart. Whenever we see signals of neglect or abuse, of course, we're mandated reporters. And there's a certain amount of autonomy that our patients have in terms of decision-making, of what priorities they hold in their life. And I think sometimes the insecurities that we harbor are a little bit of wounding from our fellow colleagues, because there's a part of you that feels like there's going to be another dentist that they find who will go ahead and treat without taking x-rays. And that can feel really hurtful when other people in the profession blur that line and confuse the message that our patients are receiving. Hello, incredible woman dental business owner. If you have been craving more freedom, more joy, and more ease, then this interruption in your podcast episode is meant for you. And so is the Empowered Owner Retreat happening this November 13 through 16 at the stunning Diplomat Resort in Hollywood, Florida. This isn't just another conference, it's an intimate, transformational experience where we step away from the demands of your practice and the stresses of home and finally breathe, reset, and more importantly, reimagine what's possible. We'll redesign your business model so that it supports your life vision, not the other way around. You'll walk away with practical, tactical tools to reclaim your time, to lead your team with confidence, and be done with all the staffing drama and stress, to build a business that gives you more space and time, more peace, without having to hustle harder. It's an exclusive small group retreat and the spaces are almost gone. I honestly don't know if I'm ever going to be doing this again, so this is truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So if this speaks to you, schedule a time to chat with me. It's invite only, but I'd love to meet you and see if this is something that can serve you in your life and your business. So click on the link in the show notes or visit www.thebizofhappiness.com to learn more. Your time is now. So I just want to acknowledge that as well. I want to acknowledge that many times other dentists, out of fear, have said yes when they really needed to say no. And I know you've experienced that as well. A moment when maybe you said yes, when every part of you was screaming to say no. And please recognize the stress that that brings. The truth is that every time you act out of integrity with your knowing of what is best for the patient, every time you do that, you stand in alignment with your values and you feel good, no matter the outcome. And then giving yourself permission to detach from the outcome. Doing your very best on that beautiful implant, doing your very best to explain why getting an x-ray is so important, such a skill. And then let go of the outcome because you have no control of it. And sometimes it takes literally closing your eyes and saying, okay, I let this go. I've done my very best. I created this beautiful outcome. And now I'm letting this patient out into this world with this beautiful outcome and I'm letting this bird fly. And from here on, I have no control or power. And there's a lot of strength, a lot of power in recognizing that freedom for yourself and for your patient. I mean, just for a moment, think about how respectful that is. I'm going to share with you everything I know to be true. I have studied many years, 14 years, $500,000 worth of education. I really care deeply. I keep going back for CE, and this is my very best opinion. You came to me for your expertise, and now I'm sharing it. And here's my very best opinion in the language that I am doing my very best to deliver it in. And now you get to choose. And I honor you for making that choice because you are absolutely allowed to choose what you do with your body. Oh, did I hit a nerve? Your patient has choice over what he or she does with her body every single time. And we get to allow them that. And that choice means nothing about you, your excellence as a dentist, your excellence as a business owner, your excellence as a communicator. It has zero indication of your worth. Zero. Just like you have a choice over your body, so does your patient. And sometimes it doesn't look like something you would choose. Sometimes our patients choose the opposite of what we would want for ourselves. And that's okay. Still does not have an indication of your worth as a dentist or a leader or a communicator or a good human being. I think one of the most important things is recognizing your gift of self-validation, of recognizing yourself. No one has walked in your shoes. No one has experienced the education you've experienced. Nobody's experienced the life you've experienced. No one has experienced the effort and the heart and the care you put into the work you do. No one, but you do. And right there is the gift, because you get to remind yourself of it. One of the greatest practices that I ever started doing was on my ride home from work. Instead of turning the radio on, the first thing I did was turn the radio on or a podcast to keep learning, because that's how much I cared about learning and being better at what I did. And I know you're the same way. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast right now. But instead of turning on a podcast to do more learning on the ride home, I would first congratulate and celebrate myself on the ride home and remind myself of how much I care. Tarryn, you did an awesome job today. You cared so deeply. You did a great job with that procedure. You were so kind and compassionate with that parent. I literally talk myself up and provide myself the validation I need to feel good, because when you feel good, you can do good. Am I a broken record here? When you feel good about yourself, you get to be the leader you've always wanted to be. You get to be the compassionate provider, the excellent provider that you've worked so hard to be, but only when you're in the place of feeling good about yourself. And the moment we attach our patients' decisions and choices to our sense of self-worth, boom, that plummets. That confidence, that sense of self-worth plummets. And now we cannot stand up and be our best selves. It's actually a responsibility. It's actually our responsibility as healthcare providers to self-validate so that you do show up as the incredible provider that you know you can be. You know, now that you have this, now that you know this about yourself, I invite you all the time, guys, I know. I offer so many beautiful opportunities for you to step into your greater sense of freedom and success and to finally feel good in dentistry and in your work-life balance. And this program, Radical Happiness for Practitioners, that starts October 7th, is the only program I know like it. There is none other out there. There are no programs of self-empowerment, building up sense of self-worth, self-confidence, and literally seeing success coming from it, specifically for women dentists. They don't exist. This is it. It is an incredible program. I have had hundreds of women graduate from this program and become enormously successful and happy. It doesn't matter who you are, if you're an associate or a business owner. This is an incredible program that I believe should be offered in all dental schools. I do. That is my dream. One day, this will be an integral part of becoming a dentist, because your sense of self-worth is so critical for you to be able to do your very best work for your patients. It is fundamental. This next cohort starts October 7th. If you're interested, let's chat. Let's just talk about whether or not this is for you. I'll leave a link in the show notes. You can also find me at thebizofhappiness.com, but let's schedule a time so that I can understand what's going on for you. But if you've resonated with this episode, if it's felt so stressful to do your very best and your patients keep either turning down x-rays or messing up the work that you've been doing, or the frustration of really caring so deeply and then patients just don't understand the severity of what you're saying and the importance for their own health. And if you're taking that stress home with you and it's impacting your health, it's impacting your focus and attention, it's impacting your freedom in your own head, in your sleep at night, we need to talk, because you deserve so much more than that. You deserve to really feel the impact of the work that you're doing in this world, because you are doing great things. And I'm so grateful to you. And we need you around for many years longer. But what I know is, in order for you to keep doing the work you do, you need to feel great about yourself. And you deserve that. So let me just finish this episode by saying thank you. Thank you for doing the work that you do. And let that land if you can. Practice hearing and receiving gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for spending so many years of your life really perfecting your craft. Thank you for spending so many years of your life serving the patients you serve and the teams you serve. Thank you for taking care of so many people. You deserve to take care of yourself, because when you feel good, you can do good. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes, and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.